I'll try to be as brief as possible. That on this issue we should try and forego the usual political point scoring and posturing that somewhat is a feature of private members' motions. This issue affects far too many people in our society for us to engage in the type of baiting that we've witnessed in the past. Be they families burdened with large mortgage repayments or businesses struggling to access credit, they and the economy need a resolution to this issue. There is much to commend in the motion from Fianna Fáil tonight. The history of how we got to this point bears little responsibility to the relevance of the families that are looking for a solution to this issue. Individuals and businesses in the midst of a struggle to stay in business, struggling to keep their head above water. The only real thing that matters to the people out there is that at this moment is what the future holds and not what the past has delivered to us. Every week I have worried parents contacting me who are struggling to keep their homes. The banks, permanent TSB in particular, included in those institutions, owe their very survival, as the previous speaker has said, to the actions of the Irish state and the Irish people. They played a large role in bringing our people to the sorry state that we're now in, and necessity meant that the banking system had to be saved. But the time for payback falls fast, and it is approaching soon. Justice and now necessity demand that, Cancórla. Unfortunately, attempts to address these matters are not straightforward, as they are, in many cases, interlocking arrangements and in some ways contradictory in their aims. As Minister Noonan indicated at the start of this week, negotiations are underway on the issue of the Anglo-promissory notes. Alongside that, the Government are negotiating to move tracker mortgages from other banks to the Irish Bank Resolution Corporation, so taking some pressure off the margins of those banks that are playing havoc in the context of the mortgage situation. As well as helping the banks with the sustainability of their debt, it would also give us an opportunity to put values back into the bank, which then could be realised at a later date through the sale of the state's stakes in those banks. This could raise considerable monies for the state and for the people of this country. This is the issue, Cancórla, because we need banks to be profitable, so they no longer require aid from the state. We need them to be profitable so the state can benefit from dividends and later perhaps from the sale of some or all of the stake in the banks. But this goal has to be balanced by the need to ensure that ordinary families and individuals do not find themselves under undue and yes, unjust financial pressure.
2 minutes.
The gap of over 2% between the variable mortgage rate and AIB and permanent TSB is simply punitive, particularly given the normal market forces cannot operate because, as the motion notes, the inability of people to move mortgages from one institution to another. As normal market forces are not currently present to act as a correction on the activities of the TSB, there is a strong case, Cancórla, for intervention by the state, either through regulation or through political pressure. Other aspects of the mortgage crisis, particularly when it comes to arrears, will be alleviated by the Personal Solvency Bill, which has already been partially addressed by other initiatives from government, such as the Mortgage to Rent scheme, which have been announced by Janice Sullivan, Minister for Housing. The second part of this motion, dealing with the lending to business, is a matter of importance also. Businesses need access to lending, and the economy needs business to have access to credit, to create job opportunities, and to ensure that they can provide for strategies for job growth into the future. Only in the last number of weeks, Cancórla, a constituent of mine, came to me. She's a retailer whose business is holding its own, but is currently going through the normal seasonal dip. She requires short-term funding to get over the next 2 months, but it's been denied by her bank. The bank had been given access to large amounts of funding at low rates from the ECB, and I understand from some certain sources that much of this money is finding its way into commodities like oil, coffee, which is driving up the costs for working people in society. This funding must be directed towards the real economy and not merely to the next nearest speculative bubble.
Ask the Deputy to conclude his remarks.
To conclude. In conclusion, Cancórla, the banks contributed in no small part to the current calamity that we are now facing. They now have a moral responsibility to aid the recovery of our society from the misery they helped bring about. They can do this voluntarily or through compulsion. The choice is theirs, but is one that must be made quickly, because the patience of the Irish people is rapidly running out with regard to this whole crisis.
Deputy